Hello, everyone. Welcome to Challenging Your Status Quo, the go-to podcast for those seeking success that resonates on every level. Our guide on this journey to success is J.A. Dava, co-founder of Latreia Coaching and Consulting. Each episode, we challenge you to step outside your comfort zone in redefining holistic success. Because in order to truly excel, one must rise in all aspects of life: spiritual, physical, relational, and philanthropical. So buckle up. Let's explore how your vocation and well-being can harmonize perfectly. And give a warm welcome to the host of Challenging Your Status Quo, J.A. Dava.
All right, everybody. This is Coach J.A. Dava, and I am absolutely stoked. Stoked is a great word for it too, because being stoked is it means so much, right? It really stresses the point when you're excited about something, and I'm very, very excited about today. This one has been in the make since the day I was told I was going to have a podcast. These guys have been around me. I honestly, now when I think about it, I think about these boots, which I'll explain later on. But these boots that I have are well over 10 years old because of the fact that my boys were in scouts at one point, and I remember having to buy this for the troop and going on hikes with these boots. But these boots were well over 10 years old, so I've known both of these guys for 10 years. These gals are just, you know, when you have favorite people in your lives and you hardly ever get together with these people, but when you see them, it's like family all over again. And the hugs are genuine. The caring is genuine. And that's who these two people are. I'm more than honored in so many different ways, not only from a friendship perspective, but how much these people have touched me. But I'm honored because their lives are in service, right? And constantly. I mean, when I think about heroes, they'll never call themselves that. I mean, at least they don't say it out loud, brag about it. But when I think about heroes, it is those people that just continue to just give, right? And philanthropical well-being is such an important part of your holistic, successful, joyful journey. And way too many people focus on vocational, which we will do today, by the way. You're going to hear some great tips. Both of my guests work with one of my favorite companies. And I don't say that loosely, by the way, because there's only so many companies that I would work for. This is one of those companies. This company I would work for, Fairway Independent Mortgage. They both work for them. And you're about to see a little bit of the vocation, but I think you're about to see the heart also of what's inside of Fairway Independent Mortgage. And so with that said, guys, buckle in, take notes, and let's have a great show. Let's have a great episode and really learn, okay, that vocational success is one thing, balancing that off with the philanthropical side. In other words, when you're blessed, what are you doing with that specific blessing? So without further ado, I want to introduce these two ladies to you. The first one I want to introduce is Louise Thaxton. All right. So thus the boots. Louise is just one of these people, works with the American Warrior Initiative, right? And I've had the privilege of being able to run marathons, but I've had the even bigger privilege of running marathons for a cause of raising money to get service dogs to some of the veterans that are in need. And so this lady is in charge of this whole thing, man. And the story is going to get great. Enjoy it. And welcome, Louise, to the show. How are you?
Well, I am honored to be on your show, J.A. What a fun time we're going to have today.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and I want to bring in your cohort because I am going to ask you about those boots in just a sec. But let me and also what American Warrior Initiative stands for. But I also want to bring in someone else who impacted my life in such a shocking way, shocking to me because of this philanthropical movement that she's in, and it's called Fairway Cares. my mom passed quite some time ago, but without really even the depth of a relationship that I have with Sherry, our guest, Sherry Anderson. Um, I remember coming home after the services and the funeral and all of that. And I remember walking into my home and I had a backpack and things like that. And I almost tripped over this huge box that my wife had brought into the house. And it was a package from the group called Fairway Cares. And who heads that up, the CEO of this particular group, is Sherry Anderson. So I want to welcome Sherry also to the show. Sherry, welcome to Challenging Your Status Quo. How are you?
I am so great and just filled with joy to be here and just to be here with two amazing friends. I just adore you both and look forward to the conversation.
Me too. Me too. And we're gonna dive right in. But first and foremost, Louise, if you do me a favor, just tell us just a little bit more about you. Okay, I'm gonna Sherry, I'll ask the same question, but Louise, just tell our audience who you are and what you do. That'd be great.
Well, let's see. I was born. No, I won't go. I won't go that much into where, even though I was born in a military hospital. Well, I am Louise Thaxton, and I am a branch manager for Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, and also the CEO of the American Warrior Initiative. And, you know, as a mortgage company, we do home loans, and I've been honored to do home loans for work in the real estate industry, let's just say for over 40 years. And I know I started when I was 10. So been in the mortgage business for, actually, it's been 45 years. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. But I've been in the mortgage industry for 28 years, with Fairway almost 24 years, and been this, you know, the head leading the Give Back program. I'm going to call it that. It hasn't formally been the American Warrior Initiative, except for 8 years, but the initiative has been going on as far as giving back to veterans has been going on for 12 years, almost 13 years. So, you know, I got involved with another nonprofit, Boot Campaign, which that's, you know, you were part of that rally cry, JA, when I said, get your boots on and get your boots on the ground and let's give back to the men and women who serve this country. Fairway partnered with the Boot Campaign, and we gave away 25 mortgage-free homes along partnering with the Boot Campaign. And that was an incredible partnership. And a lot of times when you want to start a nonprofit, everybody, I mean, you know, you have these ideas, but many times before you start one yourself, partner with someone else. And that way you can kind of ride along with them and kind of see how some of it works. I actually got involved with veterans when I moved into a military town. And I say moved my office into a military town 20 years ago. And just sitting across the desk from, it's an army town and small military town. But, you know, that's what I did is I served soldiers. And it was sitting across the desk from those just coming back from Iraq. And then a couple of years later, coming back from Afghanistan. And just hearing the stories. I've always been a story person, JA, and it was just, my heart was just broken by, you know, here we are just living life. We have no concept and no clue of what our military deal with, either when they are in war or when they come home from war, and all the challenges. And I just started screaming at the top of my lungs, you know, we got to do something. And I screamed it to the mortgage industry. And that was my big deal as I screamed it out. And that maybe when you heard it, JA, when I was screaming, because I had a platform. I had a platform because I quadrupled my business in 1 year. And so that's a little bit of an anomaly in the mortgage industry to quadruple it. And I did it. In other words, I went from closing 80 units a month to closing 300 units a month. But I did it in 1 year, and I did it when I went into a military town. And a little backstory on that, JA, is I didn't want to go in that military town. What I wanted was out of the mortgage industry. I was sick of it. I was tired of it. I was fed up. I wasn't living what I felt my calling was. I felt I was called, get this, a lot of people don't know this, JA. A lot of people don't know this. I felt I was called to evangelism. So I was going to be the next, you know, you or your audience may not know any of these names, but, you know, Joyce Meyer, Kay Arthur, Beth Moore. And I was going to be all of those three women all rolled up into one. And I had this mentor who was an evangelist, and I just needed out of the mortgage business so I could live my purpose. And Hurricane Rita happened, and my husband lost a significant business when Hurricane Rita hit a farming operation that he had. And he said, you know, for us to survive, I mean, your business is going to have to do something more than it is. I was just half-hearted, but it was, I didn't have my heart and soul. My heart and soul was serving God through the church, through evangelism. And so the only thing I could do to increase my income was to go somewhere else than I was. I was in a little rural town. And so I went south to a military town almost 20 years ago. And the first time I sat across from a young man who had just got back from Iraq, I mean, I teared up. He probably thought, what is wrong with this woman? And I thought, you know, I have to do this right. This young man has been to war. Now I have to do it right. And so I spent a year, you know, it was going to take a year for him to rebuild the farm. And by then I was almost felt like, well, am I being true to God's call? And I have a mentor, and he is still my mentor, and he is almost 90 years old. And I said, but if God called me to evangelism, and now I have fallen in love with what I'm doing and helping veterans. And he said, don't you know evangelism looks different? You don't have to be like on a stage and preaching. You don't have to be holding revivals. You don't have to be holding Bible studies. And, you know, he is such a supporter of me that even when I post something on social media, my mentor all these years later is still saying, you're doing God's work. So I don't actually tell that to a lot of people, JA, of how I found my calling within my profession.
Yes.
It was like, I felt like I needed to leave my profession to find my calling. And I think that's where a lot of people are, JA. They're right where they need to be to live out their why, to live out their purpose, to live out the call on their life, and just do it in a different way.
Critical, well, incredible words for people, because I mean, it fully, especially as we unfold this conversation and we're talking about what you're doing inside of your vocation, right? Because I mean, you and I met because of the vocation that you're in. We met, and yes, I ended up with the boots, and yes, I ended up, you know, helping with the service dogs, but honestly, there are a lot of preachers, ministers who can't get to the audience that you have been able to. And you know, ministry is everywhere as far as I'm concerned, right? So, gosh, I love that, Louise. I'm going to go to Sherry real quick, and I want to talk some more about that, by the way, because I think we have an awful lot of people listening that will sooner or later figure out what the difference is between a calling and being called to do something, and also just being able to answer a call. So, Sherry, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, I have to say, I never get tired of hearing that story. I adore Louise. And what I love about it is her platform is so much bigger where she's at than what it ever could have been in another, you know, situation. And so I've been the CEO of Fairway Cares for 8 years. And to be quite honest, I didn't seek out this position. Somebody put me in this position, and I sat there with deer in the headlights and went, what do I do? And I honestly, every day, just ask God to direct me. That is honest to God truth. And Louise has been a mentor to me. And or competition, I think, sometimes between, and we share ideas, and it's just so awesome. But my background, I served a lot in the church. I did, but I found out that I was very isolated. I was stuck in a block. And this has just allowed me to, I've always had a genuine curiosity in people, just everybody. I don't care who you meet. Everybody's walking through a situation, has come through a situation, or is going to go into a situation, and have always, I don't know, went through a difficult period in my life that caused me to really reflect on things. And my goal, I decided at that time, was to radiate the joy of Jesus. And, you know, I don't know what people think about that, but that's personal to me. And so my license plate says radiate. So I just, Fairway Cares is an opportunity for us to offer comfort, love, joy, strength to those facing critical illnesses, loss of a loved one like you experienced with your mom, physical trauma. It's just, and it so organically came about. I mean, I love to hear Louise's story because it's such an organic story. With both these nonprofits, we didn't, you know, the executive team didn't sit around and say, hey, we need a nonprofit. We got to look good to the, you know, to our clients and our realtors. What do we do? These were so organically created. And I think that's what brings them the authenticity, the richness, the success. You know, I mean, both of us can look at what has happened. I mean, 372 service dogs. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And that is not even, that's saving a life, but that's also allowing that life to live with abundance. In fact, we right today, this very day, we found out that one of our veterans who received a service dog is getting married, remarried to his soulmate, but because of his PTS, he got divorced. He got this dog. Many years later, they reconnected, and today they're getting remarried because of that service dog. So this has power beyond what Louise and I can do. It's just, it's such a joy to be a part of it and to watch these stories unfold. And even, you know, with walking through a grief of your mom, it's personal, but how does somebody come alongside of you and really offer that comfort? And these packages do that. And you know, I've got an amazing team that you know, very carefully puts these packages together, prays over every box. And it's you know, Louise always says we all can do one thing. So what's our one thing? Well, this is our one thing, offering comfort to those facing that critical illness, that loss of a loved one, sustained physical trauma. That box is that, you know, when you don't know what to do and you don't know how to offer comfort, that box is the what. And the cool thing is both these organizations are fully funded by Fairway employees.
That's right.
It really is kind of a phenomenal situation. And Sherry, I will tell you that not only, I mean, I can feel your heart in talking about it, but I saw your heart in the box that I received, right? And again, you and I at that point, we were early into knowing each other. So I really had no idea how you even knew that had happened, and that I was grieving for that. And then to come home, and it was beyond that. I mean, and you know, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about it. I just remember opening a package, and I remember my wife saying, it's from some company, right? And so, and I'm like, some company, I don't even know. So when I opened it up, the personal effects that were in there, and I'm not talking about my personal effects. It was our Lord's personal effects directed at me. And I will say that because it really was every bit of it, from the soaps, right, that were specific to what I already used. By the way, you had no idea I used that, right? And they were not just like Dove soaps, right? These were unique, manly soaps, right? And I mean, so I don't talk about that very often because I really don't think I should talk about that kind of stuff, right? And so, but all of a sudden things are coming my way. I was unfolding them, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, I use this, and this. and then the books and just the personal touch was so mom, right? It was just a godsend. That's all I got to say about that. And Sherry, it was.
I should mention too, in each package is a handwritten note, which you probably saw. So we've sent out over 12,000 packages since we started Fairway Cares. So think about, just the same thing with the service dogs. Multiply 12,000 times, you're the recipient. So over 12,000 people have received a package, but also family members. You talk to your family members about that, friends or whatever.
Right.
People, more than 12,000 people have been impacted by that box, even the recipient. And me hearing it again just warms my heart to know that it was looking to you. So thank you for sharing, because it gives me goosebumps and brings tears to my eyes when I hear it.
Well, let me say this. Those boxes have spread hope and encouragement to tens of thousands of people, and myself included, in discouraging times and times of illness and times of loss. I've received those packages. My sister is going through cancer treatments, but that same little sister, she's my baby sister, and we live close to her. My husband and I actually own a farm jointly with her. She has had a lot of tragedy in her life. She lost her son, her only son, to a house fire 3 years ago. Well, Fairway Cares came in and helped with the funeral, and also, a huge box of comfort for my sister. But then she gets cancer, so she's going through cancer treatments. And so, who gets a box but my sister? And then, and Sherry, I don't even know what you sent her the other day, but she called me and she says, well, your friend Sherry sent me another box, and I can't believe this. Who does this? I mean, she was just like, I am just in tears over this. So those boxes mean so much.
They do, and they affect so much. And your team hardly ever gets to see the real effects of what those boxes mean when they arrive, right? So they had no idea how I even felt about that whole thing. But whoever put it together doesn't need to know. She didn't need to know. He didn't need to know. They just knew before it even went out, right? And you said something to me while we were prepping for the show, that each box is prayed for. And, and again, felt it. So kudos to you and your team, Sherry, for sure. So
thank you for sharing that.
Well, and Sherry is a light. I'm telling you, among this company, she is a light. She does radiate Jesus, and she is a light in the middle of all, it's not been easy in the mortgage industry in the last few years. It's been tough, but Sherry has given hope and encouragement to those people that not only are, having a tough time in the industry, but tough time at home too, with death and cancer, and just there's a lot of loss, and you don't realize how much loss it is. I don't know how Sherry handles it, but she takes everyone's burden on her. She's one of those people. She doesn't sympathize. She empathizes. And I want to be like Sherry when I grow up. I've told her that numerous times. Yes, we are in competition as nonprofits. So I'm always telling her, like, ooh, your video is better than mine. Ooh, your marketing thing is better than mine. And she'll say, ooh, I like the way you did that reel on social media. So but let me tell you what, 24 years ago when I came to Fairway, she was one of the first people I met at the first dinner. And I remember that she and I agreed we would pray together and pray over some things at that time. And so I'm going to call us prayer sisters, even though we didn't see each other regularly back then, because, you didn't fly so much every time at the drop of the hat 20 years ago. But prayer sister and sisters in Christ. And then just, so like I said, I just want to be like Sherry. So many times I've thought, oh, I need to be more like her.
Well, it goes that way though. When I grow up, I want to be like Louise. So,
well, guys, so to everyone that's listening to this, right? This show, vocational success, is really not ever realized until you balance all the other well-beings in life. Because you can be focused on your business and that's all you're doing, and you're bringing home the bacon. It might seem like all is good, but not everything is balanced, and you don't ever really experience the true joy. What you're seeing right now, what you're hearing right now, is really a balance of so many different things that are really coming into play, right? You've got vocational success here. You've got philanthropical success, why it's necessary. And we're going to stay on that theme. But I don't know about you, but are you feeling the need for even spiritual well-being here, right? I mean, just having that grounded in your life is something that's really, really critical. And I want to touch on that a little bit, because I do think it crosses the boundaries of spirituality as well as philanthropically and definitely vocationally. There's an awful lot of people, Louise, that I have the privilege of being in front of, and they are just hating their businesses right now, hating it. They're doing it. Some of them are even beyond blessed by it, right? In other words, they're still closing a lot, but I mean, they might have been closing 200 million and now they're only closing about 100 million. Still doing extremely well, but there's a lack of joy. You just said something in the beginning of your introduction that you were at a point where you hated your work. You were done with it. You wanted gone from it. And all of a sudden you quadrupled, and I'm not sure exactly how that worked for you, but can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, seriously, there's a combination of well-beings in there that somehow you ended up staying not only in the mortgage industry, but now you manage people in that industry. So can you tell me what that felt like, especially the people are listening that are probably going, God, I hate my work right now.
Well, and I'm not going to say it was overnight. Okay. I will not say it was overnight, because I continued. I had at the time that I jokingly tell this. So I have taught over 38,000 real estate agents in 32 states in the last 11 years. And I teach a class on bridging the military civilian divide, because that's what I feel I'm called to do. It's just to bring awareness. Most civilians just don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. So I feel my calling is to say, here's the challenge they're going through. And you know what? As Americans, we reap the benefits of the sacrifice that they've made. And I feel like we owe them to give back. So when I tell the story of how the transition, because I think there's a lot of real estate agents right now thinking that they want to get out too, and I say, I'm a woman of faith. So I was praying to be delivered from the mortgage industry. I mean, I wanted out, and I just wanted to live a life of purpose. And I didn't feel like I was. And so that first young soldier I met, and then the second, and then the third, and I had a jail ministry. I would go into the jail once a week, and I would literally go into the belly of the jail and just sit among women, 60 women. And I was like in there, they had locked me in, and I would teach a Bible class for an hour. And I did that once a week. And I had a radio program that broadcast on Sunday morning, and I would record that. And so I thought, well, this is the mission. I do this, I write Bible studies, and I keep going. Well, then what happened is I got, I'm doing this work, and I had this guilt like, well, I'm moving more of my attention over here. Is this right? My mentor helped me with that. My mentor, he said, because I told him what was happening. He says, you have a responsibility to your family and to take care of them financially. You have that responsibility. You've got to help your husband. And I said, well, you're right. I mean, if not, we're going to lose the farm. I mean, I've got to make money. I had to make money. And God just blessed it. I'm just going to say it was God. How else could I go into a town that has 8,000 people and close 25 and 30 loans a month? How could you do that? How could you do that? JA, you've been in this area, but literally grew a business from closing 80 units a month, and it grew to 360 units a year. And so that was God. It had to be God. It was supernatural. and then to give me a love. And I've always been a patriot. I mean, you know, I've just always been a very patriotic person. All of my life, I've been a patriotic person. But then there's more to just patriotism and waving a flag and doing all that. I mean, that's great. But then you got to do something. And the minute that I started closing loans for active duty, I said, well, you know what? I'm responsible to give part of my income back because I made money on that loan. And so I chose the Fisher House, which is like a Ronald McDonald for cancer, but Fisher House is for veterans and active duty military, and it helps their families. And I started giving a portion. And then I found the boot campaign shortly after that. And I became a boot girl, and I would donate, and we would buy boots. And then I rallied, you got to donate to the boot campaign. You got to do this. I literally strong armed the local title companies. They didn't want to cut their fees for these active duty military. And I said, that's fine. I'll find a title company that will. And they were like, you're gonna bring in a title company? And I go, if that's what I got to do. But they deserve a break on this closing. They deserve a break. We should not charge them full. I didn't charge any closing costs as far as I was concerned. And I thought, everybody else, you need to give up. You need to give it up. You need to give it up. And I was just like, I shamed them. And after a while, they said, okay, quit calling them in. We'll give them a break, because I thought that's what we owed them. That was our responsibility to do that.
Yes.
And, what Sherry said is so right. Millions of dollars have been donated by Fairway employees who out of their closings, because everything that happens at Fairway, it is funded by closed loans. So it is, I love the Lord and I want to serve him, but it's like I go to a little church, and so somebody's got to pay tithes to support that church. Somebody's got to be working and making money and giving tithes to support that. We had a missionary, and I was able to help her as she goes into a foreign country. It's like we work our jobs, but we make a living, but we want to make a difference too. And I think that that's what a lot of people, they're looking for purpose. Look for a place that you can make a difference. And it's not just about veterans. I mean, Sherry, we're about to go into breast cancer awareness and go, my sister has cancer. And so whatever your calling is to help and give back, I mean, follow that lead and then start to do it. And I've probably talked too much there. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah, you did not, because I mean, there's an awful lot of people when they start to hate their job, they're either going to leave, or they don't even really think about the blessings they're getting from that job. And instead they almost blame the job, right? But the reality is that you found a certain purpose, an even bigger purpose. And it's amazing to me that it actually grew when you finally decided someone's got to work. Someone's got to take care of this, right? And when you started to take your eyes off of the quote unquote, how much money can I make out of the business, but how much can I get out of the business? That's when it really grew. And I think that's today's message about what is the balance between philanthropic work to that? If you take yourself out of the so-called grind of every day and take all that hard work and say, look at who has been blessed, and both of you sit with such, I know you'll never say this, but such richness in what has come out of both your work that it's beyond paid for. I mean, there's not enough income that you make out of those areas compared to how much you blessed other people, right? I mean, the gratification that one feels by giving away, it's hard, right? When you don't do it enough, but man, when you start to really understand that, you can feel it in your.
J.A., I've just got to tell you that last Friday night, a week ago, Friday night, I was in Chicago, and we were doing a music concert. And, Sherry, you will never know the lot. And Sherry always says, and I want Sherry to talk about puppy raisers, because Sherry is so involved in AWI and so involved with veterans, and she's been a puppy raiser. But Those words, "that dog saved my life," I heard almost 9 years ago. And I realized that service dogs were literally saving lives. And then Sherry just brought it out, but it's not just saving their life, it is changing their life and enriching their life. And if we get a chance, I'll tell the Kevin story where I actually spoke at his service dogs memorial service at his church. But if we get a chance, I'll talk about it. But a week ago, because we never know the impact, I usually don't see the veterans after we do the dogs. It's very rare unless they're local. And Kevin is a local, so I know him. But this young man, we had 3 former veterans who received dogs, and we were at a music concert, and it was raising money. And he said, "I want to talk." He had said, "I need to talk." And he just talked about, I've lost 14 buddies to suicide. And I've got to speak out on how this dog saved my life and how I've got to thank, and he talked the service dog company, Canine for Veterans, and he talked about AWI. And he said, "I just can't thank you enough for you funding Canines for Veterans so that I could get a dog." And, they want to place dogs in every veteran's hands because they know the life-changing message it gives. And I've heard that. And Sherry, you've heard it. We've heard it over and over. But what got me is, so this young man, he was in tears, and he turned to me and he dropped the mic and he wrapped his arms. He was a young kid, young 30s. And that's a kid to me, and just wouldn't let me go. He just wrapped his arms around me and he said, "You saved my life. You saved my life." And I think Sherry would agree, because I know she's had that experience with some of the veterans that she's helped. No money can pay for that.
That's right.
There's no money to buy that.
Yeah, that's for sure. In fact, Sherry, you know what? First of all, Louise, thanks for sharing that. That's massive. And Sherry, you have a very unique position, right? There are people that listen to this podcast who are leaders in their industry, leaders in their branches, leaders in their companies. And there's many times where, when you get into fundraising mentality, which I've been blessed enough to be a part of, when you reach out to people and you hear words like, "This is just not the right time to give. This is just not the right time to give. This is just not the right time to give. We just don't have it to give." You've watched the cycle of the business. You've seen it from its richest to, as of late, it's been the hardest, right? And so what you get to sit and watch what Fairway cares and when these people are giving, and what a difference it makes in their lives. I want to approach it from that perspective, having the philanthropical mindset. What have you seen in some of the testimonies that you've seen from the people who might not even thought about giving, finally gave, and then what they feel like? Can you share any of that?
Well, first of all, one of the things we encourage every teammate to give something, whether it's $5 a paycheck or $1 a paycheck. We understand that everybody has causes that they are really, really, passionate about. Fairway Cares might not be it. AWI might not be it. Or, AWI might be their go-to, and that's fine. So we just encourage every teammate to consider giving, not necessarily because we need the funds, but that brings them to be a part of it. When they see a service dog being awarded, they can say, "You know what? I am part of that. It's not just my company." Or if they see a care package and see the response from a care package, they can say, "You know what? I had a part in that. I actually had a part in that." So that is kind of the focus that we kind of look at when it comes to encouraging people to give. Now, it's actually pretty interesting because our teammates have the opportunity to make an election every year and designate giving to AWI and giving to Fairway Cares. We changed the process in 2023. So it was open enrollment, and then everybody just naturally would have that opportunity. Well, they changed the process for a couple different reasons, but they changed the process. And when people come against change, they don't always pay attention, they don't always participate. So at the end of December, in December of 23, we had 30% of our teammates were giving. January of 24 dropped down to 8%. Okay. So when you add that up, that's significant. That's almost just to equate that to what people could understand. That's almost the loss monthly of a service dog times 2 a month.
Oof.
So that's so how do you navigate that? Well, you work to communicate. We've been trying to communicate it. We still, September of 2024, people are still thinking that they were giving and all these months were not giving. So how do you navigate that? Well, you just get creative in other ways to generate awareness, generate giving, and you know what? We never really, and I don't know how Louise feels about this, but we never really get frustrated or get anxious about that. I'm sitting in a place of provision that God will provide, and I don't say that in a flippant way. We just continue to do our work. We just ask for creative, let it show us what we need to do. What's the next step? And honestly, we've come up, there's been some pretty neat ideas that have come forward from that we would have never thought about had we, sailed through, the giving. So it's part of that respecting. We had several people say, well, go to the people that were giving in December and call them and say, hey, you should be giving. And I'm like, people's giving is personal. Yes. The market is a little tricky. Well, not fun right now. I'm not going to go to somebody that used to give and say, hey, why aren't you giving? Because maybe for right now, they truly can't give. That's not for me. There's just no way. So I just feel like eventually people will understand, or there'll be a different way that they're giving. Or now we have these events across the country called Elevate, and we have been invited. Fairway Cares has been invited to have a presence at these events. So it's another way to opportunity for us to be more visible and to share a story and help people understand Fairway Cares in a deeper way.
Yeah. You know what? And once people do realize, right, that they are giving, it's wonderful to hear them say, my gosh, how awesome is that I'm able to give, right? Because it really is. There's something unbelievably rewarding and uplifting when it comes to giving. And like you said, even if it's just $1, think about it without worrying about, go ahead.
I was going to say, some people, it's very personal, and $1 might be to them $1,000. It's just like the story, in the Bible about the woman that gave everything she had, and it was just pennies, but that was everything she had, and that was worth more than anything else. Right. It's just in that whole practice of, we just encourage them to give something. And the reality is, as we mentioned before, everybody has their passion, their causes. Just because they're not giving to Fairway Cares or AWI doesn't mean that they're not giving somewhere else. Time, to me, time is just as valuable as dollars. If you're not able to, give the money at the moment, give of your time. That is so precious, and that is so rich, because you never know how you're going to mentor somebody, in the time that you're giving to that cause. And there's a lot of us. Louise is involved in their church. I'm on a nonprofit for trafficked women. We're building homes for trafficked women, and I'm extremely involved in the custom canines and do a lot with them, in addition to the AWI piece. So there's lots of ways that you can be philanthropic, not, in my opinion, just in dollars.
Right.
Well, right. I'm gonna point out, you, JA, you did a marathon just to bring awareness and to raise money for a service dog. That took a little bit of effort, dude. That took some effort. And, and I did a half marathon in my combat boots, and I about died. I did make it to the end, I did make it to the end, but I'm not in shape like you two awesome people are.
Oh, you're so funny in combat boots. I'm gonna tell you, man. I honestly don't know if I could have made it that far at all.
Well, it was a run walk. I do need to say something right here. None of this would be possible for me or for Sherry without the amazing heart and giving and spirit of Steve Jacobson, the CEO of Fairway, because he's the one that told me, you build it, Wheezy, and we'll fund. You build it, we'll fund it. And totally underwritten. So if you give $1 to the American Warrior Initiative, $1 goes directly to a veteran or a first responder. I mean, who does that? Steve Jacobson. And also it is literally, he had a vision of Fairway Cares. Like, he was thinking about, Sherry, about your dad and everything you guys went through and the hurt that Jake felt that you both felt when your dad died and the long hospitalization. And he just thought there needs to be something that we can help people with during times of suffering and loss. And so, kind of like a lot of entrepreneurs, he like, well, let's do this. And now, Sherry, you plan it all out and you figure it out. But it wasn't to make us look good. It was a way, how can we give back? How can we do it? And I just wanted to say that because none of it would be possible without that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Louise. And Steve sets up the platforms. He doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but then he gives the opportunity to the individuals to just run with it and create the platform. That I mean, he does give us the freedom to really, take it. And you're right, Louise. He not only my dad, but he had a lot of loss. He had a friend that died in a crack house. I mean, there are so many things, and with that, with Fairway Cares, one of the things that I think, we've expanded with Fairway Cares to something called Fairway Cares Champions. And so we've created a group within Fairway Cares called Fairway Cares Champions. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is it helps us get the word out to the branches about what we do. But in thinking about all that Steve had experienced with his friends and my dad and everything, it's all the people within Fairway Cares Champions. They've all been hurt, navigated a wound. There's something within them that they want to be a part of it. They want to give back. I mean, we have our precious Debbie at Suicide Awareness Month. Our precious Debbie lost her son 3 years ago to suicide, and she's walking 3 miles every day because it's been 3 years since she lost him, bringing awareness to suicide. And she calls it mental wellness, not mental health, because she feels that mental wellness has a more positive look and approach to getting well. Not, that you're staying unhealthy, but that mental wellness. And I just love it. And she's changing the narrative. I mean, in her little way. And it's just, it's amazing. It's just amazing. But you're right.
You two are amazing. And can I just tell you guys, it is 47 minutes into this thing already. Doesn't it seem like we just started? Doesn't it seem like we just started?
You get talking and it's like, look out.
Well,
you don't have a problem with me and Sherry. We can talk about what we do.
And I knew that. And will you guys do me a favor? I'm gonna put you on the spot, and will you come back on, like in a month, and just give us more feedback and share with us? But what I want to ask, because I want to get, now that we've talked about this, and I think we talked about a dozen different philanthropical movements that people could support right now. But I really want you guys to tell everyone that's listening, let's give them the opportunity to support however way they can. I will put on, by the time this goes on the air, there will be QR codes and links for our audience to be able to give. But Louise, in this closing moments, right? I can't believe I'm saying that because there's so much more to talk about. Can you just talk about how people can help in your movement towards the American Warrior Initiative. And Sherry, if you would do the same with Fairway Cares and that incredible bear that's behind you, which when I get to you, I want you to talk about that. But Louise, can you just share how people can be of support to you, or do they have to be at Fairway inside to do that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, I received a check the other day from a realtor in Kansas City for $1,800. She said, this is part of the commission that I earned, and I want to give it to the American Warrior Initiative to help fund a service dog. So September is Service Dog Month, National Service Dog Month, and also Suicide Prevention Month. So think about that. Service Dog Month, Suicide Prevention Month. Go to our website, AmericanWarriorInitiative.com. And here's the deal. Fairway buys the shirts, gives them to AWI. You can buy, we believe, and JA, you do not have on red today, and it's Friday. So I don't know what we're going to do with you, but I guess
that, by the way.
I guess we'll have to send you a Red Friday shirt. But I understand you're wearing your brand. I get it. You got to wear your brand. You may have to get a red branded shirt, but you can purchase a Red Friday shirt on AmericanWarriorInitiative.com for $22 this month in honor of these two special movements to help prevent suicide and to put service dogs. Your shipping is free in the month of September because we want to save lives. And so go to American Warrior Initiative. You get a Red Friday shirt and wear it to remember every defender and remember everyone deployed, everyone who was deployed, is deployed, or will be deployed. And wear your red shirt on Friday and talk about bridging the military-civilian divide.
That's beautiful. And everyone, the link will be down below. So keep an eye on that. Sherry, thank you again for that. I mean, Louise, thank you for that. Sherry, talk to me.
Yeah. Fairwaycares.org. You can make a donation there if you want to make a one-time donation. We also have our Fairway Cares Bears, which is they're logoed with our Fairway Cares logo on it. And it is two things. This month, it is, as Louise said, she says Suicide Prevention Month. And also it's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. So you can have an opportunity to donate a bear to the local hospital here. A portion of that bear does come to Fairway Cares. You can also donate it to a facility, a mental health facility. We'll put the links out there for you. But go to fairwaycares.org. There's a lot of information there about what we do. Look at the videos, look at the podcasts. We have a Beyond the Box podcast that takes you beyond the box, and you meet some of our Fairway teammates and what they do and what, you talked about earlier, JA, that Louise and I represent the heart of Fairway. We really believe that the heart of Fairway are our people, and we have amazing people. And it's the people that really have a heart to serve. And in Fairway Cares, we kind of feel like we're just the extension. Louise is a branch manager. There's people that are boots on the ground serving clients with such excellence. They're getting those loans closed above and beyond the time frame that they would expect. And they are just serving and pouring into these people. Well, they're extending the love first. They're developing the relationships with clients and realtors first. Fairway Cares just comes along and just gives them that extra touch because they've already got that relationship. So why not take that relationship just a little bit further? And that's the opportunity that we have through Fairway Cares, to listen, to allow these clients and these realtors to really be heard in how our teammates serve them. And that's what Fairway Cares does.
And that bear is beautiful, by the way. And it's not just like some cheaply made bear, right?
Can I say something about this bear? He is what we call a warmies bear. So he has lavender in him, so he smells really good, and lavender is soothing. He also is weighted. There's something in there that is weighted. You can warm them up at the microwave. And I have to tell you, my daughter was recently diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and I got to see up close and personal how these packages really help somebody in the hospital. she had a little warmie. It wasn't this bear, but it was a Highland cow. She likes Highland cows. And she had it by her face as she was recovering, and it was so soothing to her. And she's 35 years old. So these warmies are I don't know, there's something about them that just brings that love and comfort. And that's part of what I think people really experience when they see these. So I would encourage you guys to really check out our Warmy Bears. You can either donate one or you can purchase some yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Guys, 55 minutes into this thing. Louise, I'm going to give you a closing statement, because I know that that's almost silly to say closing statements, but I would love for you to just kind of last word to our audience, and then I'll turn to you, Sherry. Then I'm going to send you guys back into the green room for those virtual refreshments that you guys get to enjoy while you're in there. But Louise, closing statements. I'll have you back on in the next couple of months here. All right.
Well, the heartbreaking statistics for our veterans is that it used to be 22, and you see the 22 on my shirt. Per day, we're committing suicide. But unfortunately, since COVID, that number has gone up, and the recent numbers, it's closer to 40 per day who are committing suicide. Those are heartbreaking statistics, and we're on a mission to, I don't want it to be one per day, but to lower those statistics by putting as many service dogs as we can in the hands, hearts, and lives, as many veterans, because we do know that service dogs save lives. So, check out our website. You can check us out on YouTube, American Warrior Initiative, and see some of the videos and hear it from the veterans themselves. This is my mission, to bridge the military-civilian divide. Most civilians don't know that number. It's not well broadcast, but there are too many veterans taking their lives every hour of the day, and we want to do our part to save lives.
Louise, that number 40, committing and dying, is it dying? 40 are dying?
Yes, committing suicide.
Wow.
Committing suicide.
Wow. That is I can't even fathom that thought, that idea as to what that really means to everybody. So a lot of people will say, I didn't even know we had that many veterans. Amazing. Really amazing. Thank you, Louise, very much for being who you are, period. So Sherry?
That got my attention because the August package count was 7 suicides that we sent packages out for. We're realizing that mental wellness is a thing. We started out with a breast cancer story, critical illness, loss of a loved one, sustained physical trauma. However, with all the events of the last several years, that mental health issue is an issue. And we would rather send out 20 care packages to encourage somebody than to send out 1 suicide package. So one of the things with Fairway Cares is we cannot fix the situation, but if we can give them that hope, that love, that comfort to take the next step. And we really do believe that these packages are saving lives. I've heard it from teen parents. Their teens are going through struggles, which we didn't really talk about, the fact that we do send these out for people that are facing some really difficult emotional trauma. But anybody that you meet, they've either experienced the loss, critical illness, physical trauma, or they walked through it, or they're going to walk through it. Now, our goal is obviously to increase the amount of packages that we can send out. Our team talks about it all the time. We don't want more people to have these. We just know there's people out there that need these because things are happening. Diagnoses are happening. Loss happens. It's part of life. So we just encourage, in whatever way your audience could, be a part. If it's a one-time donation, if it's doing a bear, whatever you choose to do, you're going to make a difference.
Fantastic. Ladies, you are the greatest part of the testimony is something I always end my show with, which is blessed to be a blessing. And you guys just really absolutely, you blessed a lot of people just by giving me the privilege of having you guys on the show. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with me, and being such wonderful people in my life. So thank you, Louise. Thank you, Sherry. And
Thank you, JA. Thank you.
absolutely. And take care. I'll send you guys back. And thanks again. Guys, I don't know about you. There's really not much more for me to say. There's 60 minutes this time of this particular episode, and it was well worth every bit of it. However much or little you saw, what I'm hoping for is that you can take blessed to be a blessing, because every single one of us, because we woke up today, are already blessed beyond our means. And however way, you heard Sherry talk about it earlier, however way you can give, it doesn't have to be financial. It could be your time. It could just be that one little encouraging word that you say to somebody today can make the biggest of difference. It's all worth it. Every single bit of it. And when we get to the point where most of us are worried about where the almighty dollar is going to come from, sometimes focusing outwardly instead of internally might be just that one thing that you need to lift yourself up and never have to look back again. And these ladies were incredible. I knew I wanted them on this show to affect everybody. Hopefully it affected them as much as it affected you. Definitely did me. So with that, guys, I can't say enough. And as always, I do love you all. And I always say it, be blessed and go be a blessing. See you on the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
And that wraps another episode of Challenging Your Status Quo. We hope you found inspiration and practical wisdom to carry into your daily lives. If JA has inspired you, join our community by subscribing to the podcast. Stay connected with us at latreacoaching.com and through our social media channels, where the conversation and growth continue. On behalf of JA and his whole team, we thank you for listening and invite you to keep challenging the status quo in your own life. Until next time, remember, pursue excellence, live purposefully, and embrace holistic success. We'll catch you next episode.